I'm situationally dependent for my happiness and security, you know, find the word. You can find the word. You're screwed, basically, in terms of peace, in terms of contentment. The basic idea, you know, the yoga tradition lays out some really important ideas. And the first one, not unlike what Buddha said maybe 300 or 400 years earlier, which is that there is suffering, but there's a way out of suffering. And by suffering, we should make a distinction between pain, which is effectively a sensation, and suffering. And suffering I'll describe. So if you say something, Steve, that hurts my feelings, initially, it's a sensation. I experience that as a sensation. It's one of the things that you have a living experience, say, in mindfulness practices and meditation practices, that there's a sensation that gets triggered, a tightening, a feeling of closure, a shortening of breath. Those are sensations. The suffering hasn't started yet. The suffering begins when that sensation triggers stories. Like, I'm never going to be okay. Like, Steve doesn't like me. If Steve doesn't like me, then who was like me? And then my sense of self-esteem starts to shrink because of something you said. What you said generated sensation. I've generated the suffering based on the way I've interpreted those sensations. And by the way, now the cutting edge of the study of emotions is corroborating this idea that's really directly parallel to what the yoga tradition and mindfulness tradition speak to, is that it's all of our suffering is in fact stimulated by our stories. They're not inherent. In other words, even if you say something bad to me, it's not inherently bad until I begin to spin my interpretation of what you've done. So now step back, and then you go one more step here. And that is that there's this amazing teaching. It's so simple, but it effectively says that future pain, future suffering can be avoided. And I think that's the heart of this conversation you and I are having.